across the band's catalog. Tonight they will be zeroing in on their third album, which is called Bug. So, in about a minute or two, we're going to bring the band on stage, and we're going to talk a little bit about those days so we can get a little bit of context as to what those times were like. So hopefully, the music will have a little bit more resonance in your ears than merely a whole bunch of loud noise coming at you. And with the shallow depth of this room and the loud stage volume, many of you are going to be walking, thinking, and reading 10% slower upon exiting the stage. You'll be losing probably a few 100,000 brain cells, but that's why you have a few 100 million in there. So you can afford to burn a few, and tonight you're going to lose them in the most wonderful way. Hopefully, I've got a band off stage right who can hit the stage. Do I have Dinosaur Jr. around to bring them to the stage? Yeah! Here they are, ladies and gentlemen. Dinosaur Jr.
Your thoughts?
Fellas, you've been an operating unit for more than 2.5 decades. Perhaps you could tell us what the early days of Dinosaur Jr. were like, if any memories stick out, because it's been so many years you guys have been writing and working together.
It's funny seeing off tonight. It just, for me, it totally recaptured a lot of the energy and just the feel of what it was like. We were talking earlier backstage, and I just, remembered that for us, like seeing you guys, seeing other bands, just kind of made us want to try to join in and be a part of that, capture some of that energy, and just go for it.
When you guys started working together, making music, what were bands that inspired you to want to pick up instruments yourselves? What brought you from music buyer, a record, a fan of listening to music, to wanting to actually make your own music?
Black Flag!
We were really into the birthday party at the very beginning. We were kind of getting out of hardcore. It seemed like it died, but we still liked music and wanted to make music. But we're looking for a direction after that.
What was the first time that you all played beyond like the city limits of like where you live? Like the first time you got in a van and went like 100 miles away from home to do a show?
Boston.
You don't have to go anywhere!
The answer to the next question kind of interesting, because what was the reaction to the band's music when the first time you played in Boston?
I think the sound man threw a bottle at us.
So things are better now.
We'll see.
The first album came out in 1985, self-titled on Homestead Records. Did you all tour nationally on that record?
Yeah, we did.
And what was that like?
We made it to maybe Buffalo.
We went on tour with Sonic Youth for 2 weeks.
Yeah!
Sonic Youth gave us everything we have, pretty much. They took us under their wing really early on, and they were our patrons. And they took us on a 2-week tour.
That's right.
For them to the Northeast, and it was pretty awesome. I have to say, it was the best tour we did as a band.
They did that for a lot of bands. I mean, Thurston has a real eye for music, and he was really helpful for it. There's a lot of bands who can thank Sonic Youth for taking them out and showing them.
Amen.
Yeah. The first time I saw Dinosaur Jr. was 1986 in Massachusetts at Amherst, opening for Sonic Youth. That was a really good show. When you first started really touring, maybe after the second album, You're Living All Over Me, you did more and more touring. What were those early days of touring in America like?
Hellish.
I'll go a little bit more into that.
Well, we had, we did a couple tours early on, like in we used station wagon, and then we got a band. And I remember one tour where we lived on $5 a day. So I would get a milkshake or something. like a chili dog, like shit the rest of the day.
I would buy. I remember one time we went to Kentucky Fried Chicken. I was spending my $5. And Jay berated me for the way that I was eating my chicken.
Oh, and then there was the time we broke down in Mountain Home, Idaho, and it was the classic, like, you know, Friday night, and we walk in Saturday morning, and literally, like, the engine's out of the van. The guy's like, yeah, you got a heap of trouble. And then we find out, like, later on, it was like a $35 thermostat.
We lived in Mountain Home, Idaho became our home for 3 days. And the band totally collapsed within those 3 days.
I had like a total meltdown. And this dude shows up with like a case of Olympia beer, and he's like, you guys want to party?
What was the point when you noticed things changing as far as attendance and tours getting better? It wasn't bad every single time. It obviously changed. I mean, look at tonight.
Oh,
After when You're Living All Over Me actually did come out, I think the problem was that tour it was supposed to come out, but then it didn't. So we were touring in a broken van, and the album, you know, kind of just came out at the end of the tour. But after that album, yeah, things started picking up.
Because I remember hearing Little Fear Things a lot. That was the first time I heard Dinosaur Jr. being played on like college radio. And I'm like, wow, that song's getting a lot of airplay. It's a really great song. But I think that's maybe for a lot of people, maybe that was their first Dinosaur Jr. record. Was the second album, and they maybe went backwards to the first one. So you recorded Bug. It came out in 1988. There's at least in my mind, a pretty obvious single, Freak Scene. You know, it sounds great. It has 2 major F-bombs in it, which I guess compelled you to make a radio edit. Did you ever think that you'd have that problem? Like, wow, we have basically a really good single, and I have to clean it up for radio.
Yeah, it just seemed funny. It didn't seem like a problem.
I remember buying a single. One of the first singles I bought was "Too Drunk to Fuck." I heard that on the radio. I heard that on college radio. We have in Massachusetts. We have the best college radio. It's true. So I heard that on the radio. I heard all that shit on the radio. And I don't think we thought twice about swearing in our songs, you know.
Just to show you how old I am, Jello Biafra was camping out in Washington, D.C., and he chose my apartment to live in. And he chose that he would sleep in my bed, and I could sleep on the floor. And I was such a fan that I let him. And he's sleeping in my old Sears and Roebuck bed that I had in high school that I dragged out of my mom's apartment to take into my first apartment. And he's sleeping in it, and he had a test pressing of Too Drunk to Fuck that he put on my little stereo, and I got to listen to it before the record came out. I guess that was the payback for me sleeping on my own floor. I'm sleeping in my bed.
Sounds fair.
Yeah. I guess that was the trade. So tell us about the times when, what was happening with the band when Bug came out? What was the tour like? What was the reception like? What bands were you playing with? Like, put us back in those times.
Screaming Trees. Flaming Lips, they were kind of like we met these bands like Screaming Trees, Flaming Lips, who were like brother bands. When you get the guys alone, they complain about the other guys. And they all had horror stories being in the van together. And we got along with them really well.
Because we were, obviously doing the same things.
So when times were really difficult, not enough gasoline to get to the next venue, you're getting ripped off, $5 a day, and it doesn't get you very far. What kept you going?
We didn't really have anything else to do. We just loved music, and that's all that was kind of life.
Did you have any idea that things were going to get better, or did you think this is how it is, and you just get a punch in the mouth every night you get on stage, and that's your thank you?
We were hoping it would get better.
And when did things change? Like, when you said after You're Living All Over Me, things got better, but when Bug came out, was there a substantial change in attendance and the way you're being treated?
Yeah, it was more consistent. You know, I remember being in England and hearing, oh, the Jesus Marriage and couldn't get into your gig because it was sold out. And that was kind of like...
When was the first time Dinosaur Jr. went to Europe?
87.
And what was the reaction?
It was great.
And did you get onto the continent of Europe? Did you leave?
Yeah,
Obviously, you played England.
I think that might have been the tour that we opened for the Gun Club. Gun Club had put out, I can't remember what record, but it was sort of at the end of the Gun Club. And we opened for them like a string of clubs through Germany, and we came back a few months later and played the same clubs and sold them out. I was like, oh,
Wow.
I kind of knew that was something was up.
And I remember on that tour, we blew up the monitors, so the whole tour we just had like no monitors because it was too loud.
You guys played. You're one of the loudest bands I've ever seen on stage. Did the volume? Did that make some promoters, some venues have an attitude with you guys? Because you guys are really loud.
Sometimes it was probably more in our hometown that they had a problem. That's kind of what forced us to get out to Boston and New York and play.
And why so much volume?
Just seemed like a good idea at the time. Seemed kind of fun. And I was a drummer, and then switching to guitar was so wimpy feeling. I wanted to like capture some of the power I felt from the drums.
At some point, right around the time Bug came out, you must have noticed other bands were breaking through. College radio's changing. Music magazines are starting to pay attention to independent music. This kind of music is getting more credibility. It's getting some respect, finally, that is very well deserved. Did you feel that you were part of something bigger, that you were one of many bands that were forcing change in the music industry? Did it ever occur to you that this was part of something that was gaining momentum? That it wasn't more than just you and your band. It was this music is kind of steamrolling in.
Yeah, we met a lot of bands that all, like Black Sabbath and hardcore, and then turned it into something else. And yeah, I didn't know where it was all going, but there were a lot of bands we felt kind of, a kinship with.
There was definitely like you felt like you were part of a collective, but then I remember we did about a week with Nirvana, and that's when, you could really tell that something was going to happen. When that broke, that's when everything just kind of changed.
I remember right around that time I was living in New Jersey with my band Ace and Trent. And one night, me and the guitar player were at the Trenton City Gardens waiting to see someone, Bad Brain, someone was going to play. And in walked these like three really nice looking young girls with Nirvana shirts on, Bleach shirt. And he said, "You heard that band?" I go, "Yeah, they're really good. That's a really good record. I like that Bleach record." And so he goes, "What do you think?" I said, what does three young, pretty girls wearing the same t-shirt tell you?" And he said, "They're going to be really big." I said, "Yeah, they're obviously going to be really big." And I was right about that. And I'm not trying to be funny, but I knew something was changing. And you guys were touring at the same time. I was touring. I was very aware of Dinosaur Jr. because for a moment there we're all on the same label. And I really thought that things were changing because I was doing interviews all the time because no one else in Black Flag would do them. They said, "Oh, the singer will do it. He's got a big mouth." And I noticed the media went from being antagonistic, like, "Who do you all think you are and you suck anyway," to, "Wow, your new record sounds interesting." And like, wow, and all of a sudden you could take the gloves off and not have to go, fist to fist with these people. Did you all notice that? Like something like a kind of thaw, maybe? Like things were loosening up?
I mean, I noticed it in Amherst. When we went to Europe and came back, people, it went from being like, "Yeah, you guys kind of suck," to like, "Oh, like we heard you went to Europe. I guess you guys can play. I guess for somebody."
Okay, well, knowing that everyone here wants to probably more likely hear a whole lot of loud music than hear the last question for you guys. It's been about 25 years since 1985 and the first Dinosaur Jr. record. And now you are back in Boston where you used to get a bottle in the face, and now you got a whole bunch of really cool switched on people waiting to rock out. what is the last quarter of a century? What does that mean to you to still be, together? There's been some absences, and the lineup's been different over the years. 2007, you guys got back together after a very long cessation of the three of you. But two great albums, Beyond and Farm, later. The band is very intact. How does it feel to be still in each other's grimy faces and still making really good music? And did you think it would last this long?
Oh yeah, I didn't think it would last this long. I didn't think I would last this long.
But when you went into this, you weren't thinking career, you're just thinking we're just going to make some music.
Yeah, I didn't really think past a few months ahead.
Still don't.
It's probably wise to think that way. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our
Thank you!
Moments from now, the men of Dinosaur Jr. will retake the stage at a very high level of DV. Buckle up.